I'm often asked the question about speculative fiction as to what is it? And I say you need to break it down into three areas. You break it down into science fiction, fantasy, and horror. The problem is, with horror and the Christian market, if we want to define that as such, is we don't have a receptivity to horror. There's that idea of it's too spooky, it's too scary, it gives us nightmares, it's a bad thing. So we redefine it as supernatural. The idea of the dark supernatural beings that come into our world and inflict themselves and create demon possession and other things of that nature. What I would like to challenge our writers and our readers even is let's look for a different way of expressing the spiritual battle. It is scriptural. Principalities and powers are real. They are happening in our world right now. But how do we do that in a form of fiction that's both entertaining but also shows redemption, that brings those great kind of scary stories and brings them into our world so that we can reflect and say, you know, I need to be more aware. I need to have a better understanding of it. With fantasy, the beauty of fantasy is that anything can happen. It's a morality play. It's good versus evil. Good always wins. Think of it. It always has that element of the power of good over evil, but how that occurs or the journey that's created to make it all happen is all very exciting. And in science fiction, hey, the simplest way to describe science fiction is to look at it as a Western placed on Mars, where you have good guys versus bad guys, and you have the lady in distress tied up on the railroad tracks, except maybe it's a Mars lander that she's tied up on, or something similar of that nature. And yet, we can go beyond that. We can start asking questions about, are there aliens? Are they created by God? And if so, did God provide for their salvation, or can we just blow them away with impunity because they're the bad people? And that is what the beauty of science fiction, fantasy, supernatural fiction can do. We can go anywhere. We can talk about any idea and then bring that application into our hearts and show how God's redemption is real. It's not a fantasy. In His economy and in His creation, all things work together for good for those who loved Him and are called according to His purpose.